Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Lifetime's webinar tonight. My name is Libby Murray, and I'd like to thank you for making time to join us and learn more about your possibilities through adoption, but also to just come here as a community and share your questions and comments as we share tonight's adoption story. And I look forward to how this story may inspire you tonight. I've talked with Meredith several times, and we've had many different insights and tips that I know will come out of her story. Initially, some of you may recognize this story as one that we put off from October when we were going to welcome her and her daughter's birth mother on to share their story. But tonight, Meredith is available, and we wanted to share this with you because she has a lot of wisdom, and I've been encouraged by her outlook through her whole story, and I know that you will be too. So if you're joining us for the first time, or if you're not closely familiar with Lifetime, I would love to invite you to help us learn more about you. And you can do that by contacting us about your adoption questions or any interest you have in learning more about how Lifetime could help you adopt. You can visit our website, lifetimeadoption.com. Or if you're not yet a fan on our Facebook page, you can go to facebook.com/open.adoption. And the Facebook page has really been interesting. I've seen this week even a couple birth mothers chiming in, and I just love to see the tips that everyone leaves from their personal experience. It's really a great place to just get encouragement, but also a lot of resources, maybe things that you haven't even thought to ask about or look for yet. So we'd love to see you there. But also, if you still need to apply, our application process is free, and you can go to lifetimeadoption.com/apply and complete that to help us learn more about your adoption goals, and we'll let you know if we could be the right fit for your adoption needs and your future hopes. And if you are currently working with a Lifetime coordinator, just know that you can always reach out to her personally, either email her or call our office. You can call with any questions at 1-800-923-6784. And also, this is our last public webinar of 2013, but you can look forward to more adoption stories like this, more question and answer times, and other tips and other topics that we want to address in 2014. And, just continue what we've learned together this year into the new year, and really look forward to how that opens up your possibilities through your own adoption story. If you haven't ever signed up to receive information about our public webinars, you can go to adoptionteleconference.com and subscribe, and you'll always be among the first to know when you can sign up. So tonight I'm excited to welcome our guest, and as I've already said, her name is Meredith, and I'm going to unmute her mic just to make sure she's still there. And she adopted earlier this year. Meredith, welcome to our webinar tonight.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited about all the cute photos you sent us, too. So if you're joining us online, you get to see all of these photos of her family. They're just beautiful. Now, your little girl, Isabella, she was born in March this year?
Yes, that's correct.
Wow. So this is your first Christmas together?
Yes, it is. Oh, and it's wonderful. She's so excited for all the lights, with her being 9 months old. It's just, everything is so exciting for her right now. So it's a lot of fun so far.
Now, when you came to adoption, you and your husband, Scott, you already had 3 children, right?
That's correct, 3 biological children.
So what led you guys to want to grow your family and to consider adoption as a way to do that?
13 years ago, it was in August, 13 years ago, and we just looked at each other one night, and it just felt right. We said, we're going to adopt our last child. And it was as if God planted the seed of adoption right then and there when we were very young, newly married, and we were going to just make sure that that's what we were going to do. And it just always felt right.
Wow. So at the time, did you think how long that would be until you would begin that dream?
No,
Did you ever?
we had no idea. We just knew that our last child would be adopted.
Mhm. And so then
And once we had our 3, we said, you know what? We're going to have 4 kids. And that's when it started. We said, well, it's time. It's time to do it. It just all felt right.
So when you finally decided, okay, we're going to have 4 children, we always wanted to adopt our youngest child. I know there's a lot of families on the call tonight who come to adoption after having 1 or more children biologically, and that sometimes they wonder, will we be chosen? Will we have a harder time, adopting because we already have a family? Did you guys ever move through any of those questions or concerns that some families have?
Yeah, I have to say we did. We, often wondered, because there's so many birth moms we thought that would want their child to be placed with a family that had no children. And with us having 3 kids, we thought, wow, they're going to think we're too busy to accommodate another child, or, all these questions just kept popping up. And it does. It calls to worry for us, because we thought, don't know if we're going to be picked for this. But, as time went on with Lifetime, and we kept feeling in our hearts that it was just going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Now, there was a question just came in, and I was actually about to ask. So when you decided, okay, now's the time, we are going to research who's going to help us adopt, and we are going to do this, how did you decide what kind of adoption to pursue in the first place?
Well, we actually went through our local social services and tried for a year and a half to adopt a foster child. And we knew we did not want to foster, but we knew we wanted a young child, preferably under 2. Well, as time went on, that just was not the best interest for us. With us having small children, we decided that a year and a half, nothing's happened. Let's start researching. So we decided one night, very late, I was Googling, and truly I feel by the chance of God, you all popped up on my computer screen, and as soon as I clicked on your website, I knew in my heart, this is it. We found them. And from then on, our hearts were at ease. I never had a worry after that, really and truly.
Now, even families that, because I've worked with families in all different stages, from just beginning to think about it to, we're on board and we want this to happen. But I know that sometimes, even when they want an open adoption, while they're waiting to adopt, sometimes they question all of the possibilities and unknowns that can come along with open adoption. How did you and Scott keep the peace about, no, we want open adoption for these reasons, and like, what were those reasons for you guys? But also, just how did you truly decide, okay, no, we are on board with this. This is how we're going to build our family, is through an open adoption with a birth mother who's going to choose us.
Yeah, it just seemed to feel, I don't know, it's as if God was whispering to us. It just, in our hearts, felt right. We just knew that God would lead us to the right birth mom, that we would be chosen, that there was someone out there for us, and that God had a plan. I think that's the biggest thing, was our faith. We just felt that God planted this seed in our hearts for adoption, that he had to have had a plan for us in the end.
So then once you started up moving, you spent a year and a half seeking foster care options, and then you moved on to Lifetime. How long until you were actually matched with Isabella's mother?
Let's see. It was possibly, I'm trying to think, I'm sorry, Libby, hold on one second.
Oh, you're okay. for everyone on the call, the whole family was helping Meredith get onto the call tonight. It was very sweet. So I know that they're in the background, and she may have to play mom here intermittently. But if you have questions you want to share tonight as Meredith shares her story, you can type them into the questions or chat box on your screen. Or if you are joining us by phone but you still have access to your email, you can email me directly, libby@lifetimeadoption.com, and I will hopefully see those come through as we're sharing the photos and listening to Meredith's story. And I know that a couple of you already popped in your questions too, so I'm going to work those in tonight as well. Meredith, are you with us?
Okay, I am very sorry, Liz.
It's okay.
I had one that was not following directions, so I'm very sorry. But okay, yes, I am back.
Life goes on even with webinars.
Yes, it does. Gracious. Okay, you had asked me again. I am so sorry.
It's okay. So one of the questions that was asked, and it's good to talk about this too, how long, once you started searching for a private adoption, started waiting for a birth mother to choose you, how long until you were chosen by Isabella's birth mother?
Let's see. We signed on with Lifetime in April. Mm-hmm. And yes, it was 4 months shy of 2 years from signing on with Lifetime. We waited a total time of, 3 years for Isabella.
To her birth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you know what, I'm looking at some notes I took with you when we talked several weeks ago, and you're actually coming up on the anniversary of the date when you found out that her birth mother had chosen you, or
yes.
when you decided to match. Maybe that happened this month last year, right?
We did. We were contacted by you all on December 20th of 2012, wow. And matched 5 days before. Yep, matched 5 days before Christmas.
Oh my goodness!
Yes,
so,
wonderful Christmas present.
And I love that because a lot of times people will ask, okay, well, how, once we're chosen, how long until the baby's born? Because I think a lot of times we talk about sort of these, be ready at any moment, it could happen tomorrow, but you actually were matched for another 3 months, right?
Yes, we were. And that 3 months was the most unbelievable 3 months that I could have ever had with a birth mother.
In what ways do you mean?
It started out, so, emailing once a week, and then it became literally texting every day. We became just best friends. I couldn't imagine my day without her. It truly became that.
And so these pictures that I brought up are of when you met with Christina the first time, right?
Yeah, actually, this was 2 days before she gave birth, and she looked like that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes, so she made me sick after seeing her teeny little self after I had given birth. I didn't look like that giving birth.
But you had gone out before this, so I'm going to try and find if there's a photo, let's see, from when, because you guys had met, didn't you meet before that?
No.
Like shortly after you had spoken. Oh, okay, I thought I remembered differently.
No,
so you waited these 3 months to meet each other. Wow, okay.
Yes, and I'll never forget, because Christina said the day that we actually, where we took this picture, she texted me and she says, I feel like I'm going on a blind date. I'm really nervous. And I just laughed and laughed at her.
And, it's kind of cool that you bring that up because we use that comparison sometimes. I know that a lot of times, especially families when they're just eager to adopt, and sometimes I believe that many of us get to a point where we just almost want to say, I don't care who it is, I just want it to happen. And
yes.
The reality is that it is like dating, and not all matches are going to be the long-term fit.
Yes.
So when you met each other after these months of growing closer in a friendship and texting all the time and having these conversations, what was it like for you to meet her finally face-to-face?
Oh, golly. Honestly, I don't think any of us could even look at each other. We were full of tears. It was like, almost like we were in a dream. Really, it was, golly, it was just the best feeling ever, because it was almost like we were meeting a best friend that lived so far away, and we were so comfortable with her. Like, none of us ever felt awkward. There was never an awkward moment upon us meeting.
Now, in the first photo I had up a moment ago, there was one of your whole family with Bella, and then I'm going to bring it up again if I can. And then the photo of Christina. Now, she was working full-time as a nurse, right?
Actually, yeah, she is a stay-at-home mom, and she only works on the weekends in the ER. And that is actually why she chose us, because our families were so similar. She said, "You guys just remind me of us."
Mm-hmm. And so by us, she was raising a child at the time she became pregnant, and she's married, right?
Yes, she has 3 boys. So she had 3 children, her and her husband, and then Scott and I had 3 children.
So was that surprising for you? Because I think that that's something that a lot of adoptive parents wonder is, what kind of circumstances will she be in? And, you know, they may even be surprised to know that she's married and already raising children. But like we always try and say is that adoption can be the right fit for anyone as long as they know the accurate details about their choices and that it's up to them. So was that surprising for you and your husband when you got to know her and realized, wow, we do have a lot in common as far as our whole family goes?
You know, I think it just, because she was a mom, I was a mom, we're very close in age. She's a stay-at-home mom and I'm a stay-at-home mom. I think that just made us even be more relaxed around each other, because we would text about what the littlest kids were doing for the day. And no, so I don't know. No, I don't think we were surprised at all. I think it just made it even more comforting that we were just so similar as families.
Now, what were her reasons for choosing adoption for this baby?
She had an affair.
Mm-hmm. And so was her husband supportive of her choosing adoption?
Yes, he pretty much let her lead the court. He was, of course, wanting to stay married. She was, of course, wanting to stay married. And they wanted a life for this child. And she felt that because of what she did, she could not 100% give her heart to this child like she has her other 3. So she honestly was doing this because she loved Bella. You know, she wanted her to have a life with a family just like theirs. And that's why she chose us. And it's kind of weird because her husband was helping her choose families. And Scott and I, he actually went off by himself and went through all the families as well. And Scott and I were one of the families that he had chosen too. So it's weird, you know, both of them doing it on their own time, you know. I guess just meant to be, you know, because we were so similar, so similar.
Right. And, you know, again, what I love about sharing adoption stories is because they're all different. No two birth parents or adoptive parents that come together are ever exactly the same. The circumstances are often different. But in the end, what adoption is about, is kind of coming from where we came from, but now we're coming together in the middle and going forward. And it's, it's so interesting because you hear that from Christina's point of view, that she was just thinking about, okay, this is how I got here, but now I have to make a choice, and I care about what happens to this baby. And that she was open with you too, that she could trust you with that story, and not worry about being condemned or judged, because I'm sure she may have even had people in her life just saying, well, you got to this point, how could you do this? Or, just questioning how
and it's strange, it's weird that you brought that up, because during our conversations, we would just cry together, and it was almost as if I were a therapist for her. I listened to everything she felt, all of her regret for what she had done, and gave her a lot of positives out of that. I'll never forget one day she said to me, she said, I know I keep talking about my husband and how wonderful he is. She said, and look what I did to him. And I said to her, I said, well, Christina, you're only human. You're only human. God doesn't make anybody perfect. And I'll never forget, she just cried and cried and cried. And I wanted her to know that, she was being accepted by us for what she had done, because Isabella wouldn't have been created if she hadn't have done what she had done.
Right. And that's I love that you brought that up, because I think especially this time of year, it's easy for people to focus on if they're still waiting, or if they haven't yet decided which path they want to go. But they, I would say probably everyone in our audience tonight, they long to add a child to their family. And so whatever stage you're in making that happen, sometimes the holiday season, but I also think just the winter season, because it slows us down, or we have more time to think and worry and be in the dark, that there's a lot of people worried about, well, I would like to adopt, but what if I'm not accepted? What if I'm not acceptable? Or what if I'm not approved? And to hear you describe those same fears going through Christina's experience, I hope that brings comfort to people, knowing, it's not just you, and that there is a greater sort of approval fear, I would say probably on the birth mother's side, because she may have guilt, she may have regret, she may have a lot of fears based on how people in her life have treated her so far, but that you helped her almost in a sense to sort of build a new trust in herself, maybe.
Yes. Yep.
That's beautiful. And I know that that just is kind of like a drop in the bucket to the kind of relationship that you guys have grown through this whole year. So this photo that I have here, now you guys, it was important to her that you be involved in Bella's birth, right?
Yes. She, from the moment we matched with her, her first question was, do you guys want to be in the room when she's born? And I'll never forget, I said, are you kidding me? Yes, that would be great. And she goes, well, is Scott going to be weirded out about that? I said, no, he's not. I said, he's a very conservative man. You don't have to worry about anything with him. And she said, well, I really want you guys with me from start to finish. And she was induced, and we all met at 5:15 a.m. on March 4th at a Mexican restaurant, which was a half a mile down the road from the hospital. And yes, and we all walked in together, walked straight upstairs together, and never left each other's side.
What was it like? Because every adoption, sometimes the hospital has a different role. What was that like for the people involved, just professionally taking care of her pregnancy and her labor and delivery? Was that strange for them, for her to include you, or were they very supportive and helpful?
They at first They were great nurses. But at first, they were very, very more hands-on Christina, more, kind of sheltering her in a sense from us, because I think they were a little confused by, what are these people all doing in here? Because I don't think they have a lot of that happen. And until the moment that the social workers came in, I'll never forget, I decided long before we even started the adoption process that I was going to breastfeed our adopted baby. And Christina had known that all of that. That was one of the reasons she was so excited about choosing us, as she had done the same for her boys. And the social workers came in, and they had told me, I'm sorry, but you cannot do that until the 12-hour mark, because in her state, that was just the process. And so anyway, I'll never forget, she turned to that social worker, and she turned to that nurse, and she says, well, now what can I sign to get her to be able to breastfeed this baby?
Oh,
and
wow.
Here she was fighting for me to breastfeed her child.
Mm-hmm.
And from then on, every nurse that came in that room was completely different. I mean, they were like, holy cow, what has just happened here? And Christina was very stern, very adamant. She said, I'm not trying to get you all in trouble, but what can we do to make this happen? I need you to get on the phone and call your supervisor and see what can be done.
Right, and I want to pause, too, because I know, having worked with you and then talked with you through this, that had the hospital said, no, that is not going to happen, or had Christina said, I know I said that I wanted that to happen or that I was comfortable, but I need more time now, that you would have respected that. I mean, I know you would have been disappointed.
Absolutely, yes. And until
also
she
on board
took
for rolling with the flow.
That's right. As soon as she took that ball into her court, I stayed quiet and I let her run with it. So, yeah, if she had said, no, I'm not, that's okay, we're going to, that's fine, and, I would have sat back. I probably would have been a little bummed because I'd worked for so many months, pumping and doing and working hard. But, hey, that's life. You don't always get to pick and choose everything you get or want. That's just part of life. So, but no, I was prepared. I was prepared to have happen whatever needed to happen. And
I'm bringing up these photos now of right after Isabella was born, and that because it was Christina's wish that you be intimately involved, like right away.
Yes, I was literally, Christina was maybe 1.5 feet from me in that picture. We were laying side by side together.
Do you remember that moment like it was yesterday? Or?
Yes, because I'll never forget, we had a great nurse. And this one nurse, as soon as Isabella came out and her face came out, this nurse started screaming. And we were thinking, we were already crying, and we've got this nurse screaming, and she's going, darling, sit down in this chair. We're going to put this baby on you. And it was just hilarious. I mean, it just added to Isabella's story. We can tell her that one day, that you had this crazy nurse that was hooping and hollering and screaming and, adding to all the fun to it. And so I did exactly what she said, and she pushed me back in that recliner, and another nurse was handing Isabella to me, and I mean, she had not even been wiped off yet. She was still completely with amniotic fluid, everything, nothing. She had not been touched other than a towel put on one side of her. So wow. That was just being warm from
so we had a question come through now, too. I mean, looking at these photos, and if you're joining us by phone and you can't see this, the photos we're looking at are from Meredith's album, where she was handed Isabella freshly born, and she's holding her skin to skin. Um, in this moment, or even maybe just leading up to this moment, but certainly I would say in this moment, a lot of families would still have this fear of, okay, I'm kind of all in here. I don't know what I'm going to do if she changes her mind about adoption. You know, did that ever go through your mind? Were you prepared for the fact knowing that she could still change her plans?
Yes. I think that because I got to know Christina so much, I had this peaceful feeling in my heart that she was going to do what she set out to do. I really didn't have any doubt that she was going to change her mind. But then again, as a parent, that was her child. And if she had come knock into our door, that was still her child, and we couldn't have not handed her her child back because we loved her that much. And that sounds weird to say, and in the state that she was in, it was only a 12-hour wait, but that was still her baby.
Right. And I mean, just knowing, I could just imagine you, because of the relationship that you had with her at that point too, that also, did you ever find this overwhelming feeling of, I'm just so sorry you have to go through this because
yes.
Because I do identify with you as a mother.
Yes. I mean, I think the first time we ever spoke on the phone, for maybe, I think it was an hour and a half, and it was like 6 days after we had been matched. That was my question to her. I asked her, how are you really, really doing? Are you really okay? And she was very honest with me and told me that she had not been okay until the moment she matched with us.
And then she had peace. Wow.
Yeah, she finally had peace. And she said that no one knows what I've been through. No one will ever know what I've been through unless they've walked in these shoes. And she said, just to have you both, you've saved me, you've saved my marriage, and you've saved my family.
She said that to you?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
And it was 6 days after we matched. That is just how, I think it was because, and it's kind of weird because she actually told her mother and I have recently spoken, and she told her mother, she said, Mom, I really feel that Meredith truly cares about me, that it's not all just about the baby. And that was true. I cared for her first and slowly started talking about the baby because I didn't want to rush.
I want to back up because you had told me that her mother was not initially understanding of the whole plan in general, right?
That's right. Yes, her mother actually didn't want her to give this baby for adoption.
But she understood. Do you think this sounds kind of funny, and you may not know the answer to this. I mean, my initial question, probably just because I've worked with so many birth mothers, would be, well, what do you propose she does? Because her marriage is at risk here, and she had an intact family before, and she's trying to make a decision to balance two different playing fields and give them both the benefit of a positive future.
And the answer to that is her mother stated to her, this baby is meant to be Christina. And Christina answered her mother and said, but this baby is meant to be for this other family, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she just felt it in her heart, and she accepted that Isabella was meant to be. And I would like to say the craziest thing, too, with all of this is that the first moment that Christine and I spoke, we were both so nervous, you know, because I had never spoken with a birth mother before. I mean, I remember having dreams about what I would say, what I would do, what I would, you know, if I would even be able to get my words out. And she was the same way. She was very, very nervous. And so after a few minutes of us talking, I just said, you know, I'm going to go with my gut. I'm not going to prepare what I'm going to say. I'm just going to go with my heart and my gut, and everything's going to just be fine. So I asked her, I said, you know, Scott and I always said that we would hyphenate the baby's name to what the birth mother chose. And I said, what name comes to you when you think of your baby? And we'd only been talking 10, 15 minutes. And she said, oh, well, we already named her. We always said if we would have a girl that her name would be Isabella, and we call her Bella for short. And I could not, it felt as if my heart stopped. I could not talk. I only screamed into the phone, and I know I about blew her eardrum out. And she probably thought I was a crazy woman then because the way I was screaming so loud. And I said, oh my gosh, that's her name. And I could barely, my voice was cracking. I said, that's her name. That is her name. We named her over a year ago to be Isabella and call her Bella. And immediately she just cried and she said, this is meant to be. It's just meant to be.
And that, I mean, we're getting a lot of comments coming in just saying, wow, you know, what an amazing birth mother, but also just, you know, I think it's a testament to you and Scott, because I have worked with families who, just upon hearing Christina say, well, we've actually chosen a name for this baby, that even before she finished her sentence or the story or the reasons, that they would just get this stone in their stomach and clam up like, what? Like, we have a name for this baby, you know, and they would get kind of defensive. And I've seen it almost every time that happens. It turns into a story, just like you said, where it ends up being this amazing, what? Us too, like, and, or even if it's not something that you agreed on, that it's something that you see the beauty in. And a lot of families would handle that moment differently, but that you guys still had this heart of, you know, we're called to adopt. We're just going to keep moving forward. We have strong faith that this is what we're meant to do, and we're not going to say no when we're in this far. That you are willing to just be open to hearing her out and learning about her and exploring this possibility. Now, because you guys had not ever been chosen before Christina chose you, right? You had no matches before her.
No, I had never even spoken with a birth mom before.
So, you know, it in a way, I'm sure you spent those, you know, 20 months wondering, could we at least just speak with one woman? You know, like, just, is anything happening? But then also the benefit of not having had a match before her is that there's nothing to hold you back. There's none of these fears of, well, we said this last time, but then it fell apart, so maybe we shouldn't say that this time. Or, you know, that you kind of had this, you just kept moving forward to kind of unfold this story. And most people who adopt through lifetime, they don't get, you know, the opportunity to speak with several birth mothers before the one. But here, I think just what always stands out to me about your story, Meredith, is just how willing and open you were to just coordinating this adoption with the birth mother of your child, and not fighting for the reins to control it.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Did not want to control it. I wanted to be there for her and love her as much as I loved this baby. And that was my ultimate goal, and truly succeeded on that.
I just brought up this sweet little note that you shared with me that Christina gave you. Now, did she give you this note? For those of you who can't see it, it says, "I just want to say thank you so very much, Christina." Um, did she give you this after leaving the hospital, or was this later?
This was at lunch, 2 days prior to birth. She gave us a gift, a baby shower gift, and a card.
Well, were you thinking, what? Why are you giving us a present? I mean, we're here for you.
Yes. I mean, it was nuts. It was nuts. I mean, that was my first reaction when we walked in and looked to our left, and here she is sitting, and she's got a gift, and it's just wrapped up just as beautiful. and she carries it to the table with her, and she says, "I just have a little something for you all, for all that you're doing for me." And I'm thinking, you are giving us our 13-year dream, and here you are giving us another token of love.
We had a question. I wanted to talk about this too, because you had children going into this match. What was that like to explain as much as you could about open adoption to them, and who Christina was, and what was happening when mom and dad have to leave the state and go, meet her, and for now, even for them to look at these photos and hear the story again and again? Because now, how old were your kids when you were matched with Christina?
10, 8, and 4.
Okay. And you have 2 boys and a girl. Did they have questions like, well, who's that, and why do we keep in touch with her? Or was it strange for them, or awkward, or did they ever get jealous at any time that this was completely different than their story?
No. I think because we adopted as a family, our kids were so involved in our adoption, they would ask us weekly, "Mom, Dad, or Mommy, when is the baby getting here?" And we would just say, "God will bring her." And, you have kids asking for 3 years where their sibling is that they knew their mommy and daddy had dreamt about for all these years. I think it was part of that's just how we raised them. They knew that their last sibling would be adopted, but I think in a sense because they had to wait so long for her that they were so excited that they just couldn't wait for her to get here. They just could not wait. And I think because they were around a lot when I was talking to Christina, or Christina's youngest little boy, who was 2 at the time, would do something funny, and my youngest would do something funny, and we'd text back and forth about what their silliness, what they're doing at the time. And I think that that all just kind of helps.
Mm-hmm. Here's the welcome home sign that they made for her when you guys were coming back.
Yes.
So, now that you've had her for 9 months in your family, do you ever wonder or worry, or have they ever had questions like, do you think that she's more special? I hear these questions a lot, and we had a couple of these questions come in just now as you were talking about that, because I would just say that probably even when you had your second child and then your third child, you had these same questions as you are adding to your family through adoption. I would say most parents question, is our oldest child or our other children going to be jealous or feel slighted by us bringing another child in the family, whether that's biologically or through adoption? What is it like today for them? Do they walk around and brag about their little sister who they have this sweet adoption story for? Or
they do. I think she gets more love because she has 3 siblings who she reaches her hands up, and she knows somebody's going to pick her up. she has a lot of benefits at home, and I think at first they all were kind of fighting over her, who was going to hold her first, who was going to kiss her first, but it all just kind of happened. You know, it's just weird how it all worked out. I think everybody was so at peace that she finally was there, and immediately they loved her as much as Scott and I loved her from the moment we saw her. We did have ultrasound pictures. Christina had sent ultrasound pictures, and we actually put that ultrasound picture up in our kitchen so the kids, we all could see it every day. So I think that kind of helped too, because they could see their baby before she ever was born. And now, yes, they are constantly bragging on her who does the most for her.
So because we had so many people say, yes, my child always asks, you know, where is our baby coming from? When is this going to happen? You know, and you talked about you're so matter of fact, and I think too to ask you. I mean, we talked briefly about it in the beginning. You know, we had a couple of questions say, you know, wow, you waited that long to get matched. How did you get through the hard times? But what I keep hearing in you is this just sincere trust on your faith, and that you were called for a reason, and just completely believing there's a plan. Did you ever have those moments where you just felt like you were in that pit of, I really don't know what's around the corner?
Yes. I mean, it was so hard. I mean, it was probably the waiting. It was so hard because, you know, we had the feeling, you know, I had a feeling it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But then as time kept rolling on, you know, another spring would come or another Christmas would come. And you just, you know, I think you find yourself going, is this really going to happen? And then that little voice kicks in. We would have never gone down this road if it was not going to happen. And that's what we kept hearing. And it's really weird because in November of 2012, we had not completed a nursery. We had decided, you know, more on my part, decided not to do a nursery. That possibly that would just make it harder to have to clean a room and, you know, have to see that every day or shut a door every day, or just that would maybe make us wonder, oh, golly, when is this really going to happen? So one day in November 2012, it was weird. Scott and I looked at each other again and said, let's do the nursery. It's time. And we started on that nursery, and the second week of December, I had some friends. Ethan had preschool playmates come over, and the moms looked at me really puzzled, and they said, well, have you guys heard anything yet? Why are you starting on a nursery? And I said, no, it'll happen. It'll happen. Just feels right. And 10 days after those moms made that comment, we were called by Lifetime.
Wow.
Yep. And the nursery was pretty much done and ready to go, and we just kept that faith and just kept listening. It was as if God were whispering the entire process of, you know, it will come, it will come, it will come. And thank God it took those 3 years, because we would not have this baby. It would not be Isabella.
I want to bring the photo up. I passed through it briefly, but I love this one photo on the left because so many families, you know, they toil over their adoption profile, and they worry, is this representing us right? Is this going to get us chosen by the right birth mother? Are we going to stand out? And I love that you have this profile with the baby that it led you to, sort of like full circle, I would say. And this photo on the right here, I know that those of you who have questions about, the birth father of Isabella, I mean, that's sort of a story in itself, but what I can say is that everything that you've heard about Meredith and Christina's relationship is truly what held this adoption together when it came to the surprise and the hiccups that came along with having this birth father in the mix. But that in the end, he actually asked if he could give you this dress to her, right?
Right, yes. And it was from Africa. That's where he's from. And that dress means so much, so much to us. And it'll mean so much to Isabella one day, because we have it, it doesn't fit her anymore, but we have it wrapped up in a pretty little box.
Now, so you said that, I don't know if we covered this, but Isabella is biracial, correct?
Yes, she is a quarter African, a quarter Arab, and half Caucasian.
Okay.
And her birth father speaks Swahili and very broken English.
Wow.
So it's really, beautiful. It would give you chills. It really is beautiful.
Now, I think another unique aspect, because you don't regularly keep in touch with him, right? You put it out there to him that if he wanted to, you would, but that's sort of just laying there. But the thing that I think is unique about your story that I definitely want to highlight before we get too late tonight is that you have what sounds like an amazingly beautiful open adoption with Christina, but that it wasn't really until recently that she was actually open to receiving updates and photos of Isabella, right?
That's correct. Yes, she wanted a closed adoption. And I'll never forget when we heard that because I thought, oh, no. Really wanted that open adoption. But hey, this is her child. This is her way of guarding her heart. And if this is what she needs to do to move on as a mother, then we have to give that to her. And it was weird because in February, because we knew she was going to be induced on March 4th, we would text back and forth. And one day, probably around February 20th or so, I said, I just have to tell you, I'm getting really sad that our friendship is getting ready to end. And she texted back and she said, I know, I've really been crying and really upset about it too. She said, I just wish we had met under different circumstances.
Oh.
Yeah. So we were both preparing each other for our goodbyes. And in the hospital, when we were saying our goodbyes, I hugged her and cried and told her I'd see her in 20 years because that was one of my first questions when she said she wanted a closed adoption. I said, well, how do you feel about Isabella possibly contacting you, per se, in 18, 20 years, and she said, well, I think everybody will be in a different place then, and I think it'll be okay.
And what I like about this is because open adoption doesn't always look one way. And a lot of times I will speak with women, and it's really hard for most birth mothers to anticipate what kind of contact they want after the adoption until the adoption happens. Sometimes they don't always know. There may be women that, she could have easily have arranged with you to stay in touch and be, continue this friendship and share these updates, even beginning, say, the week you get home. But then she could have at that point said, you know what, thank you for these photos, but this is way too hard right now. I can't look at these, and asked you to stop. And then on the other hand, there's times like this where she was saying, I think it's going to be too hard. yes, I still want to be accessible for you if you have questions, but I really want a closed adoption after it happens. But essentially, she wasn't creating a closed adoption because she already knew who you were. She had gotten to know you. You knew who she was. You knew all this history. Um, but then it just sort of became its own thing. And I think that that's what's awesome about open adoption is that it doesn't have to be this black or white, fit in a box kind of relationship. It can really just be human and what works for you.
Right, and she still has her days. She still has her days that she struggles. And on those days, she calls me, and we talk, and I just give her the positive of her biggest worry, is what is Isabella going to feel 20 years from now, or is she going to have any anger? And my job as the adoptive mom for Christina is to promise her that Isabella will never have any questions, any doubt, any worry about being an adoptive child, because she was adopted because her birth mother loved her so much that she chose life and kept her safe, happy, and warm for those 40 weeks of pregnancy and delivered her to a loving family.
That's beautiful. And so what has that been like for you now that, because I remember you actually had a story, and I don't know if you want to get into it, but that she did actually tell you, I would be open to seeing a photo, because it's, now at the hospital, she didn't even spend time with her baby, right?
No, she didn't even see her face. She kept her face, her eyes locked on me. We just pretty much, Christina and I locked eyes. She saw Isabella's body, but she never once saw her face, no.
And so then it took, what, about 4 or 6 months until she actually said she would like to see a photo?
I actually almost wrecked my car because I was so excited and started crying because I saw this. But she said, I think I'm ready to see Isabella. And my phone was about dying. So I pulled over and texted back and said, let me charge my phone. Hang on a second. And, oh, yeah. I mean, and once she received that picture, she immediately texted me back, and she says, I feel at peace. I feel as though I am looking at your child. And I think it was because she had waited so long, and that her and I were so close that, and she would hear Isabella crying in the background when we talk on the phone, because we do talk on the phone a lot. And she's not ready to talk to her yet. Isabella's grandmother has talked to her, but Christina is not ready yet. And I don't push her. She knows that all she has to do is ask. And whatever she asks, I've opened my doors to her. She is welcome to my home, to my family at any time. I love her like a sister, and hope and pray one day that she sits at my dinner table and stays at my house. That's just, one day we'll get there.
Right. I mean, just the comments and then also what's going through my head is just overwhelmingly just how much you actually just care about her as a person, going back to what you said about, well, our goal is to adopt, but I'm not going to adopt unless I can care as much about her.
Right.
And that you carried that out. And I just think the integrity that you offered as an adoptive family is what I feel like inspires other people, because open adoption doesn't have to be this sticky, awkward thing. It can just turn into a relationship, and each one of our relationships is different, even within one family. Does Scott have as much of a connection with her as you do?
Yes. I would say, well, not exactly, because he's not a woman, and he doesn't get to, how women love to chit-chat. So he doesn't chit-chat like Christina and I do about, kids and husbands and all that cooking and everything. But, you know, he has really recently, she had something bad happen with her other son, and Scott called and offered to have money wired to them to help out with that situation. And
oh, wow. That's above and beyond, yeah.
Yes, and she just cried and cried and cried to him, and she said, I just don't know what I have done to be blessed with a family like you all. She said, I just don't know how lucky. And we feel the same way for her. I mean, it could not have been more perfect. Could not have been more perfect.
You know, does Christina share in your faith?
We are different. She is actually a Jehovah's Witness.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of cute because her kids don't get to see Halloween things or Christmas things, and I always get to send them little texts of our Christmas trees and all of our Halloween spiders and everything, and she goes, oh, they just love seeing your stuff because they only see that stuff in stores. So it's cute. It's just cute.
Mm-hmm. And so the photo I brought up here is one of the beautiful Christmas photos you just had taken.
Yeah.
And you finalized her adoption, was it earlier?
It was actually in August.
Month? Oh, August, way back then. Okay. So, and for those of you who have questions about, well, how soon do we get to finalize the adoption, that varies state to state. It's sometimes impossible to predict because even in one state, sometimes things come up that can change that timeline, but you and your family walked through that as quickly as you could.
We did.
I know you had other circumstances that came up, but that it was a long summer, but that they were resolved, and I know that it also bonded you and Christina even closer.
It did. Yes, we were there for each other yet again, and what has recently just happened with her, I'm there for her now again, and it's just bringing us closer on this circumstance. So everything seems to happen for a reason. It all just happens for a reason in God's plan.
So looking back on, like you said, I had this visual when you said, you know, I'd have those times where another spring would come or another Christmas would come, and I was kind of picturing, you know, when we get lost and you start saying to each other, I think we passed that sign twice already, and you start to question, am I lost, are we getting anywhere? And for you now to look at this first Christmas with Isabella and the ones past where you thought, another Christmas? I mean, what is that like for you right now?
Well, we just took I'll tell you what we do normally is we go and cut down a Christmas tree at a Christmas tree farm, and we go and stay in a log cabin every year. And that's a tradition that Scott started for our family. And we just went this past weekend. And holding Isabella at that Christmas tree farm, I just cried because I thought, wow, you know, this has really happened. This has really, really happened. She is really here. And just having her for this Christmas and being at that Christmas tree farm last Christmas going, is it really going to happen for next Christmas? Was just a miracle. Just a miracle to finally have her and to love her as much as we do. She is so loved. So, so, so loved.
And she has quite a little face. That face must light up your world.
Yes. She gets talked about everywhere we go because people just constantly say, oh, my golly, she is just beautiful. So she does. She definitely has. You could just eat her up. And she is such a good baby. I think she knows she's the fourth child because she really is honestly the easiest baby ever.
So what would you say to people, moving into, maybe they just went through that Christmas tree farm experience, or maybe they're looking at Christmases with people saying, hey, what's happening? When's this going to happen? What would you want to leave everyone with tonight? Or maybe they haven't even decided whether they're called to adopt. Is there anything on your heart you want to share with the hopeful parents in our audience tonight?
Absolutely. Good things come to those who wait. Wait for that baby. It is so, so worth the wait. So many of us want to rush through this life. And this child, every time I look into her eyes, I want to cry. And honest to goodness, I would go through 13 more years of waiting to just get her.
Thank you, Meredith. And I found a note that I made when we spoke back in October preparing for the interview initially. And again, I know you spoke to this earlier. I remember you said, God will see it through since he put it in my heart. And that you also said, everyone's story is so different, and you just have to go with it, open your wings, and fly.
Yes, fly. All of you who are waiting, all of you who are not quite sure what you want to do, take the leap and fly. It will come your way, and hold in your heart the peace, because your baby is waiting for you. God has that baby waiting, whether it be today, tomorrow, or 2 years from now. That child will come to you.
Thank you so much. We had all these people say, oh, now I'm crying. Thank you so much. This is beautiful, and I know that the original intent, you were very excited initially to share your story alongside Christina, and that maybe in the future that will happen. But like you said, that stuff had come up recently. So if you're a prayer warrior in our audience tonight, please lift Christina up in your prayers just for peace, and that she has some smooth waters ahead, but that she finds the comfort and the answers that she's looking for. I know that all of us are available to help you if you have questions about your readiness or your adoption future. Please reach out to us. You can call us at 1-800-923-6784. And if you're already working with a lifetime coordinator, remember that she's there for you. Whether you have a question you think you've already asked before or something you need to check up on, just let her know, and she will help you as much as she can. And Meredith, I'm just so grateful that you could spend so much time with us tonight with your family clamoring in the other room.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it, and I hope it brought peace to a lot of people.
It did. We had the comments coming in. Thank you so much. This is very inspiring. I loved hearing about this. Thanks for the reminder to keep trusting God and holding on to my hope. All of you in the audience tonight who participated with your questions or your comments, thank you so much. And for those of you who were just actively listening and soaking it up, I'm just so glad to see so many of you here tonight. And I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and safe holidays. And look for another webinar in January, and I hope to see you all there. So Meredith, I hope your family enjoys every bit of this Christmas you've been waiting for, and
Absolutely.
that you'll continue to keep in touch with those beautiful photos you always share.
Yes, and we will send you all the Christmas card tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Oh, woohoo! All right, everyone, I hope you have a great night, and we'll talk with you soon. Good night.
Night.